Monika's climbing the shadow of the jagged Iron Crag Mountains. Where the wind howled like a grieving spirit, lived a girl named Monika. She was 16, with calloused hands and eyes that burned like embers, in a village called Stone Shallow, a place that clung to the edge of survival. The villagers were tough, carved from the same granite as the peaks, but Monika was different. She wasn't just tough, she was relentless. Her heart beat with a stubborn rhythm, one that refused to bend to the world's weight. Monika's village revered the Iron Crag, not for its beauty, but for its cruelty. At its summit, legend said, lay the star, a crystal said to grant one wish to whoever claimed it. No one had ever reached it. The mountain was a graveyard of ambition's steep cliffs, sudden storms, and paths that vanished into mist. Every year, a few tried, and every year, they returned broken or not at all. Monika's father had been one of them, 10 years gone, leaving only a worn leather journal filled with sketches of the mountain's paths. She read it every night, tracing his faded ink, memorizing routes that led to nowhere. The villagers called her dream foolish. The mountain eats the proud, they'd say, shaking their heads as Monika sharpened her climbing tools. Her mother, worn thin by grief, begged her to stay, to tend the goats and live quietly. But Monika couldn't. The Star Veil wasn't just a legend to her, it was her father's last promise, a way to bring him back, if only in spirit. She wanted to wish for her village's prosperity, for fields that didn't wither, for winters that didn't steal. But more than that, she wanted to prove the mountain could be beaten. At dawn, on her 17th birthday, Monika left. Her pack was heavy with rope, pittance, and her father's journal. The village watched in silence as she walked toward the Iron Crag's base, her braids swinging like a pendulum. The first day was brutal. The path was a lilu shell slid underfoot, and the wind bit through her cloak. By nightfall, her hands bled from gripping jagged holds. She camped in a shallow cave, shivering, and read her father's journal by firelight. The mountain tests your will, he'd written. It wants you to quit. She didn't. Days bled into weeks. The Iron Crag was a labyrinth of false summits and dead ends. One morning, a rock slide nearly buried her, forcing her to backtrack a full day's climb. Another time, a storm pinned her to a ledge for 2 days, her water gone, her lips cracking. She whispered to herself, one more step, one more. Her father's words echoed, the mountain doesn't care about your strength, only your stubbornness. She pressed on. Halfway up, she found a Kurna pile of stones, marking a climber's grave. A rusted piton bore her father's initials. Her throat tightened, but she didn't cry. Instead, she added a stone to the pile and kept moving. The air grew thinner, her lungs burned, but her will was iron. She began to see the mountain not as an enemy, but as a mirror which showed her every doubt, every fear, and dared her to keep going. Monika answered with every scraped knuckle, every aching step. Near the summit, the path vanished entirely. A sheer wall of ice loomed, glinting like a blade. Her father's journal had no answers for this. Exhausted, she hammered in a piton, her hands shaking. The first attempt failed. She slipped, dangling from her rope, the abyss yawning below. Her scream was swallowed by the wind. She hung there, heart pounding, and thought of her mother, the village, her father's empty chair. Not yet, she growled, hauling herself up. She tried again, and again. On the 5th try, her pick caught, and she pulled herself over the edge. The summit was a desolate plateau, scoured by wind. In its center sat the Star Veil, a crystal no larger than her fist, glowing faintly under the moonlight. It was beautiful, but Monika didn't care about beauty. She knelt before it, her breath ragged, and made her wish not for herself, but for she wished for fertile fields, for warm winters, for a future where no one had to climb for hope. The crystal flared, then dimmed, and Monika felt a quiet certainty that her wish had been heard. The descent was no easier, but Monika moved with purpose. When she stumbled back into Stone Shallow months later, the villagers gasped. Her clothes were tattered, her face gaunt, but her eyes still burned. They whispered of the Star Veil, but she only smiled and said, "The mountain let me through." That spring, the fields bloomed greener than ever, and the winters softened. The village thrived, and Monika became a quiet legend not for the wish, but for her refusal to break. Years later, when children asked about the Iron Crag, Monika would show them her father's journal now worn to threads. Persistence isn't about never falling, she'd say, her voice steady. It's about getting up every time you do. And in Stone Shallow, where the mountain shadows still fell, they believed her.